Saturday morning, 18 people showed up to a patch of ground that was real pretty. You actually had tall trees, really kind of a super cool place. Most people would probably just walk right past it without a second thought, but it was a really interesting place. No noise, no bravado, nobody making speeches about being tough or anything, what they've been doing in their life and their work experience. They were literally looking for signs, willing to learn, and eventually willing to give of their time and help, volunteering to help those in need. These were folks that already volunteered in some search and rescue in the past. They didn't feel really comfortable about the whole situation, and they were trying to learn how to be better. There was one woman, a sheriff's deputy, a fire chief, and several young men, mostly firefighters, volunteer firefighters. I just recall them standing still and waiting to be tested in ways they didn't fully understand yet. I wasn't there to impress anyone. I wasn't there to prove how much I know. I was there to teach, watch, and listen. Because when you strip away the gear, the phones, and all that noise, men reveal themselves quickly. What stood out to me immediately wasn't experience, it was their age. We had several young men there, some still figuring out who they were. And here's the thing nobody tells them anymore. The world's loud, chaotic, and dishonest about what strength actually looks like. These young men weren't loud. They weren't posturing. They weren't pretending to be something they weren't. They showed up early, they listened, and when they made mistakes, they didn't hide from them. That alone puts them ahead most grown men that I know. You know, the first fracture always comes quickly. It's the moment confidence meets reality. Tracking isn't hard because it's complicated. It's hard because it forces stillness of thought in a world that's addicted to movement and being in a hurry. You can't rush this. You can't force it. And you can't fake your way through it. I really watched them struggle, not physically, but mentally. Their instinct was to hurry and to guess and just to act. And the ground punished every single rushed decision. That wasn't a flaw, that was just a lesson. You know, in a search and rescue situation, it's really easy to feel rushed and uncomfortable. It takes real effort to get calm. And calm isn't passive. Calm is disciplined. Those who did best weren't the loudest or the strongest. They were the ones who slowed down when it felt uncomfortable to do it. They were the ones who thought back on the lesson and applied it right then and there. You see, this is where modern confidence collapses. Most people think confidence comes from reading a book. As soon as they read it, they feel like they're pretty much an expert, right? Or they go out and buy some really cool gear and all of a sudden they think they have an advantage over everyone else. And they'll have the ability instantly because they have the gear. Or some people just think, if I just make a good list, a good preparation list, and buy these products, that I'll somehow be prepared and ready to go. But that's not where confidence comes from. Confidence comes from knowing you can stand in the middle of all uncertainty and not panic, to remember your training and keep order. It was that time in class where things started to change a little bit. They started observing. Their awareness was heightened. I continually asked them, look off in the distance and listen. When they looked back at the ground, they were no longer scanning. They were no longer guessing. They were observing instinctually. You could see it in how they talked. Their voices actually slowed down. Their words became clear and well-defined. Some of the vocabulary and language was now being adopted and used. And in their small groups of 3, their little tracking teams, they were able to make progression faster because they were understanding what each other saw. And they built upon that. They weren't reaching for language anymore. They were choosing it precisely. You could literally see them getting grounded, working together. And my guess is they probably didn't even recognize it. But I've been doing this since the late 90s, and so it's interesting to see the dynamics after all these years and see how people change right before your eyes. Now, that grounding didn't make them quieter necessarily. It made them precise and much more aware. And once that happens, mistakes begin to fade. Assumptions are no longer made. Evidence is looked for intently. There's a moment in every course. It can be subtle, but it's unmistakable if you know what to look for. It's when a man realizes that the world isn't overwhelming. He's just been trained to react to it instead of see it for what it really is. I watched young men discover something most never do. That competence is calm, that patience is strength, and that awareness beats frustration every time. No need to justify a poor interpretation, no excuses to be made. Just take the right direction now and move forward. Understand the lesson and build on it. Just quiet confidence earned the hard way. Even though the class was about tracking, the lessons learned were far deeper. This is about how men respond when no one's watching, the very definition of integrity. When instructions are minimal, intentionally minimal, when the outcome is not guaranteed, society keeps telling young men that they're either dangerous or defective. Given responsibility, discipline, and standards, young men rise. I was blessed there was immediate strong interest for the 3-day course. I was happy that I feel like people got a lot out of it. That tells me something important, though. Not that people want training, but that they're starving for meaningful challenges in life. They want to give back, but they feel frustrated sometimes when they do because they don't feel fully empowered to do so. The men who showed up left different than when they arrived. And if more men, especially young ones, learn to slow down, see clearly, and act with intention, then I'm thinking we might be just fine. I've been worried about this. I've been worried about young men and how they have so little out there to attach themselves to that they feel like is something worth committing to in relationships, in their work. I just want them to know that strength isn't being loud. It's not some of the things you're being told in this world, right? You got to remember, confidence isn't rushed. And the men worth following are usually the ones you almost miss because they're paying attention and they're quiet, calm. Maybe it's time for you to get grounded, step by step, stone by stone. We'll see you in the next one.